Hello everyone, in this video we're going to explore the MRP processing tables. So we'll work through some examples in order to understand how different lot size rules works, right? Okay, so please make sure you make yourself familiar with the template, right? So here we have the item or the component number. You will be given with the beginning inventory, right? So which is inventory carried from the previous period. Then here we have the lot size rule. So either you're going to use lot for lot or the fixed order quantities or fixed period, right? Model or periodic order quantity. Then you will be given with the lead time, right? So this is an example. Let's say the lead time 1 week. Supplier needs at least 1 week before we can receive the inventories, right? And finally, you will be given a constraint how much safety stock you need to keep. Here are the terms we discussed. You will have gross requirements, scheduled receipts, planned on-hand inventories, net requirements, planned order receipt, and planned order release. So you will be given with the gross requirements from the MRP for level 1, and for level 2 and 3 you need to calculate these. And then the scheduled receipts, I will give this to you, because you are not always going to have scheduled receipt for every week. For some weeks you may have no scheduled receipts, right? So you will treat those as 0 if there's no scheduled receipt. So you only use the scheduled receipt information if it is given. Otherwise you're going to treat it as 0. And we'll come to the calculations for this part. Okay, so to start with, in order to work through the MRP processing, we will stick to this example for the table manufacturing, right? So make sure you understand this product structure tree, because the tables that we will create for MRP are driven based on this tree structure. Okay, so let's start with the processing. So when it comes to processing the MRP table, we're going to process from top to or top down approach, right? So starting from level 1, then level 2 and level 3, right? So you will be given with the MPS table at level 0, which is coming from your master production schedule, right? So we already covered those topics: aggregate planning, master production scheduling. But at this point, what we are interested in the week, the planned production for each week. So using the standard table that we have in last slide, we are looking at this point into leg assembly. I have given you the beginning inventory of 50 units, which is coming from the previous MRP period, right? Okay, then we are making this for the leg assembly. So we need 1 leg assembly per table. We are going to use lot for lot rule, so which means we will order only the quantities which are required to satisfy the requirements, plus to keep enough safety stock. There's 1 week of lead time, so once you place an order, it's going to take 1 week to receive it. And we need to keep at least 20 units of safety stock. So to start with, you will always start by filling out the gross requirements. So in order to make 1 table, I need 1 leg assembly, right? For week 1, we are not making any table. The planned production is 0. So the gross requirement for the leg assembly is going to be 0. For week 2, the gross requirement is going to be 0. Similarly, week 3, no production, so week requirement is 0. In week 4, we're going to manufacture 200 tables, right? So I know that I need 1 leg assembly for 1 table, so which means I need 200 leg assemblies. So that's how the demand is driven for each week for the dependent items. So in this case, the leg assembly. So then I have given you some additional information that we have a scheduled receipt which we'll receive in week 2, right? So of 50 units. So from here we can start calculating the planned on-hand inventories. So the planned on-hand, so POH for week 1 is going to be plan on-hand for T-1 for previous period, right? So we are here in week 1. So remember what I said, when you're in the period 1, so the plan on hand for the previous period is going to be beginning inventory. So that's going to be 50, because that's what the previous period was, right? So from here, the gross requirement is 0. We don't have any scheduled receipt for week 1, and we don't have any planned order receipt for this particular week. So I'll come to that later on. Well, at this point, we don't have any planned order receipt. So this is going to be, so for week 1, my planned on hand inventory is 50. So similarly, we'll carry on with the same calculation. We'll now go to week 2. So for week 2, I have planned on hand from week 1, so which is here, it is 50. Gross requirement again 0. So now we have scheduled receipt for week 2, so which is 50 units. So these units were planned previously in the previous period, and your supplier is going to deliver this in this particular week. So we'll account for those, and there's no order release. So that will give me the planned on hand as 100 units. So we'll carry on with same process. So this will be 100 units again, because we don't have any gross requirement, and there's no planned order receipt, right? So when we come to week 4, let's do the calculations for week 4. So planned on hand for week 4. Planned on hand from week 3, which is 100. And I have a gross of 200, so minus 200. I don't have any scheduled receipt, so that's going to be plus 0. I don't have any planned order receipt at this point. So which means this comes out as minus 100. We can't afford back orders, because at this point we are given with a constraint that we must keep a safety stock of 20 units. 100 additional units to satisfy the demand, and 20 units to keep the safety stock. So as we can see here that we are short of 100 units, right, in order to fulfill the gross requirements, and we also need 20 additional units to keep the safety stock, right? So from here we need to have at least 120 additional units, right, in order to satisfy the demand. So this 120 will give me the net requirements, right? So that's one way to look at it. You can apply the formula too. So remember, the formula was if your planned on hand is less than gross requirements plus safety stock. So I have planned on hand as 100, my gross requirement is 200, and safety stock is 20. So we know that the planned on hand is less than gross requirement plus safety stock, right? So what the net requirement then going to be, net requirement is equals to gross requirement 200 minus the planned on hand inventory plus safety stock. So that's going to again give you 120. So either way is fine. So right, you can go strictly the formulas that we explained earlier, right? Or you can look into plan on hand as we did here. So we were short of 100 units. We should order those 100 units, as well as we should enough inventories to keep the safety stock too, right? So that gives me 120, right? So you're going to be net requirements as 120. So based on these requirements, we can only fulfill the requirement of additional 120 units if we receive 120 items on this particular week, right, or start of this week. So that's where your planned order receipt is going to be placed. So your planned order receipt will align with your net requirements, right, because you want to receive those inventories on start of the week or start of the period, so that we can satisfy those extra requirements, right? But however, in order to receive these items in week 3, as we have 1 week of lead time, I need to order these in week 3, right? So that's the idea of time phase plan. Okay, so I need my items on start of week 4, but in order to receive those items on week 4, we have lead time of 1 week. So I'm going to offset the order release date by 1 week, which means that's pushed back to week 3. So that's what we had here, right? So the planned on hand inventory after receiving 120 units will be 20. Yeah, so that's another important point. So make sure you always update your planned on hand inventory by adding the net requirements. So my planned on hand is going to be after receiving these items. So I have plant on hand from the previous week as 100 minus gross requirements 200 plus scheduled receipt of 0 plus planned order receipt, which is 120 now, right? After placing after we have planned this here, right? So that will give me 20 units. So make sure you update this information, because I see sometimes students have kept this as a negative number. No, you can't have it negative. You should update this number once you have sorted out your planned order receipt. So you'll follow the same process, right? So similarly for week 2, we know that the planned on hand is 20 units. Then you have a gross requirement of 150, right? So if we plug these numbers here, it's going to be 20 minus 150. No scheduled receipt at the moment, no planned order receipt, right? So I need 130 units more to satisfy the demand, and plus we need to keep 20 units of safety stock. So that gives me 150, right? So I should be, the net requirements are going to be 150, right? And so I should be planning to receive 150 units on start of week 5, and that will give me the planned order release. So now you should update your planned on hand, right? So this will be 20 here, okay? And this process will be applied, right, throughout the table. So we go back and apply this to the next periods, right? So you will see one thing you will notice for lot rule. Once you have the plant on hand equals to the safety stock that you require to keep, your net requirement is always going to be equal to gross requirement, right? Because this is lot for lot rule. We are ordering exactly same quantities that you required. So I will highly recommend to give it a go on your own, right? So once you start calculating these quantities and updating the table, you will run into issues or you will make mistakes, right? So then you can ask those specific questions. But one important point here is always update your plan on hand once you have decided on planned order receipt, right? So I have seen lots of times that students end up giving this number as negative. No, you can't have planned on hand negative, because we should be keeping the safety stock after satisfying all the gross requirements, right? So always update the planned on hand once you have updated the planned order receipt, right? Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach me out, and we'll go through the next one, which is top, in the next video. Thank you.